Some conversations heal you,
Some challenge you,
and the
but the
best do
best
both.
do both.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Conversations
Conversations
Over
Over
Coffee.
Coffee.
I'm Ron,
And I'm Toya.
and we're your hosts.
Thank you guys for joining us today. If you haven't joined us on any of our other episodes, you can check us out on YouTube. We're Conversations Over Coffee. This is episode number 8. We've come a long way. So we're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on also Instagram.
Spotify,
Yeah, we just signed up for Spotify. So
X.
X, yeah. And remember again, this is a podcast, so it's not always a visual thing. You also can listen to the audio.
On Spotify.
Just turn us on when you're cooking,
Mm-hmm.
when you're driving in your car, when you're at work. So we appreciate all the followers.
Right. I tell people at work all the time, man, y'all ain't here for 8 hours. Y'all ain't doing nothing. Y'all can put the podcast on and just listen.
Yeah.
You ain't got to watch it.
Right.
All you got to do is listen to me talk.
Yeah. But we hope that you are enjoying our conversations. We're looking for your feedback. So again, make sure you're commenting underneath the videos.
Definitely. Interaction is key.
Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and start with what's in our cup?
Yeah, we can go into what's in our cup.
You want me to go first or you go first?
Go first.
All right. So this morning was a rough one for me to figure out what I was going to sip on because it's going to be a hard episode. This is probably going to be the first episode that we get a little emotional, tear up a little bit. I almost slipped up on the Sam episode and shed a tear, but I caught myself. I know Toya saw me. I don't know if you guys did, but this episode is definitely one that could get us there. So I needed something that could get me through. This is some good stuff. This is Booker's The Apprentice batch. I need something with a little strength. 125.5 proof on this boy right here. Don't sip like it. Nice and smooth. Booker's is one of my favorites. This is one of my, you can see the bottle. Almost gone. So yeah, this is my bottle that I like to sip on when it's been one of them days. So this is gonna be one of those conversations.
It definitely it's definitely gonna be touching. So today, you know what? I decided, let me put it that way, to step back from the alcohol or wine. And I'm just sipping on a cup of coffee.
Don't judge.
It sounds like that movie Get Out. He said he haven't seen it, but we gotta watch that. But I don't have any spell on you or anything.
Yeah, I'm not. You know how I am with those kind of movies, man. They kind of hit and miss for me.
But again, I'm just sipping on regular coffee. So guys, what's your go-to cup of joe? Mine is Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, and we live in Birmingham. Well, I'm letting that out. Birmingham. So I like the Birmingham roast. You guys go check out Birmingham roast. They got some good coffee, good snacks for lunch. I used to work in the area too, so I always used to check them out.
Birmingham roast is definitely for me. I'm not a big coffee guy, but every time I go there, I get me a little
the specialty coffee. Yeah. What do you get? Dang, cup of joy.
Cup of joy.
Cup of joy. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's like a latte.
I haven't got Deja hooked on that.
Yeah, but I'm not a latte person. I like regular coffee.
Right.
And guess what? When I don't step out and go get all those, name brand coffees, so we just use Folgers. So yeah, I love coffee in the morning. So that's what I'm drinking on.
Definitely. Album cover. Yeah. This one, I don't know. Again, I'm a jazz person, so I like my jazz albums. So again, you guys know this one. I don't know if you guys will. If you don't know jazz, you're definitely not gonna know this.
And we did go to this concert. It was great. It was
Yes.
great. And I'm a jazz girl, so we definitely like to incorporate jazz. And if you go check out all of the other albums that we posted, you can see that it's mixed genre.
We listen to all types of stuff.
Yeah, we listen to all types of stuff. And then again, you see that we brought the record players, so it's good to go to the
Nothing like that vinyl.
stuff.
Nothing like that vinyl.
Mhm.
Last week's album, did anybody get it? No. But Roberta Flack, killing me softly with this song. Roberta Flack, last week's album cover.
We ain't got to music, y'all.
Sing to me, baby. You know I like when you sing to me, you know.
But yeah, we're gonna have a music episode real soon. So we just have to watch out for copywriting. When you post stuff, we get flags. So
Yeah.
it's a way around it, and we're gonna get into that.
I think one of the things, if we can get a live going, I got to get our TikTok page. Maybe we can live stream that.
Yeah, I think
I wonder if we can
that would be a
flag
good
us?
way for us to start a live is to do a music. So you all watch for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we gonna get into the subject today.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the subject. So what we're talking about today?
So we're gonna be talking about parenting.
Yeah.
This is gonna
Joys of parenting.
Man, I don't know if I always call them joys though.
Well, again, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're a parent, it's something we all go through.
Yeah, no
It's
doubt.
something our parents had to filter through the journey.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's a great discussion.
So we're gonna talk about like parenting now versus then. You know how our parents raised us, some of the things they did, some of the challenges of today's parenting.
Yeah, because a lot's changed.
Yeah, for sure. Gentle parent versus authoritative parent. Raising emotionally intelligent children. We're gonna get into the stresses of parenting. We're going to go over a little bit of a generational trauma. Maybe some of you guys have gone through some of that stuff, some things that you want to change that you went through as a kid. We're also going to talk about raising Black and brown kids in today's society. And then we're going to end it with a little advice for new parents, young parents, and those that might have some questions about parenting.
Because we all need it.
All of us.
We all need it.
Sure. None of us know, everything about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? We all kind of go through the process, kind of learning as we go.
And it is a learn as you go. Yeah.
Sure.
So what's changed then versus now?
I mean, a lot's changed. Back then, it was pretty much go outside and play.
Yeah.
And when you beat the streetlights home.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't do that nowadays.
Yeah, you can't do that nowadays. I feel on a safety perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
So anybody know our generation. Even if you see videos and things go around the nostalgic videos, we were raised different. Again, we were outside. I think that was the highlight of my day. Like when you didn't have the stresses of work, you would get up, get dressed, go outside, and just be out all day long.
No concept of time.
No, and our parents kind of, was in or out.
Yeah.
You're either in or you're out.
Exactly. And if you was out and you got thirsty, you grabbed the water hose and you got some water.
Right. Yeah. So a lot has changed.
Yeah, for sure.
The leniency, I would say you did have those strict parents.
No doubt.
I would say I was kind of borderline. My parents were borderline, but anybody knew me and my sister, we couldn't get off the porch.
Right.
So again, I was raised in a kind of a strict, more upbringing. which is not all bad
No, for
because
sure.
again, um, a main one of the main things I want to discuss today is that, honoring kind of what your parents taught you
Mhm.
or what you experienced with your parents. And I feel like whether good or bad,
Yeah,
just honoring your raising because that defines you as a person.
right.
Mhm.
Definitely. What are some of the things that when you bring that up, that your parents did back then, that some parents nowadays may not be able to or do not do.
Mhm.
We talked on last episode about sticks and stones and teaching our
Yeah.
kids how to you know take on people's words and when they talk about you.
Yeah,
But
that's something kind of I could take away. Like something my mom, told me. And again, we're gonna get into this later, but kind of, about generational, I wouldn't say traumas,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know what my mom had experienced in school, but when that was something she taught me
right.
starting out school. I can remember as early as kindergarten. Just knowing, and we talked about this in one of the last episodes about bullying.
Hmm.
That was one of the phrases she taught me. Sticks
Yeah,
and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
right.
And that is something that is important nowadays
Yeah,
because again, that was instilled in my head and living normal life.
right.
Experience we all have I feel like we've all experienced
Oh,
some
no
type of
question.
bullying
Definitely.
situation,
I
whether
mean,
it's innocent play or actual bullying.
some of us may have even been
Been a
the
bully,
bully.
and guess what? I've gained up with the I am
I
guilty of
definitely
it.
know that I've been on the other side of that.
Yeah, the mean
Again, but
girl teen.
like I said, back then it was different because once you left school, it was over.
Yeah, yeah,
And even then, like
yeah, it
even
was over.
it's funny because like even the situations where I feel I may have been the bully,
Mhm.
I mean, we still got along. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, I used to
yeah.
talk
Well,
about
now
it.
it's a
I used
different
to
story.
chase, but
Yeah,
like we still in school. It's not like every time we saw each other, it was a fight or something.
yeah.
You know
So
what I mean? So
again,
it's changed a lot.
but then you got to look at also her instilling that in me as far as just not letting anyone break you down.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the lesson.
Yeah,
Um, Also, I would think, woman, you may be able to relate to this when raising your having babies.
mm,
A lot of mothers pass down to their daughters the lessons that the mother
yeah,
showed them as far as with your newborn baby, those old, I don't want to say old wives' tales or just, if your baby has a fever, do this or
yeah.
certain things we pass along. But still, some are good
Right.
because those are natural healings and things you can pass down for
Yeah. But
generations. But do it becomes too enforceful when you don't pass down those
yeah,
traditions. And I think a lot of conflict comes along where, even me as a grandmother, you try to be controlling of the new mother's ways
yeah.
and don't let them try to infiltrate, their what how they want to
Right.
raise their children.
And I think that we forget that. You know,
Mhm.
we want to like our kids, for example, like we want them to be parents like us, and then when
Just
they
like
do
us.
things different than we do, we want to be quick to
Mhm.
jump on them like, hey, that's not how you do it. Like we have to step back and realize that we didn't always like I didn't always like my mom telling me how to raise the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like there was things that I did that was different than them. I was raised by my grandmother. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? For the most part. My dad lived with us, but if I raise my kids like my dad was to me, so you learn those things from your parents, but you also have to have the
Discernment.
discernment to
Yeah.
say, okay, yeah, that's how I was raised, but that ain't right.
Right. And then I think I don't want to get into like, moving into the next subject, but
Yeah,
this goes along with the emotional side of it. Um, Being angry.
yeah,
And I think sometimes as parents, we get angry
mhm,
when we can't enforce and when
yeah,
things don't go our way,
mhm,
but we're not conscious of the emotional trauma that we're putting on our
yeah, for
children
sure.
just from the onset of them experiencing how we react
Yeah,
in an anger way.
right.
And then I think us as parents, or what I'm learning is kind of like observing the situation, not reacting out
Mhm,
of anger, realizing what's the trauma that's going
yeah,
to be on set of my child
right.
from my actions.
Yeah,
So again, um, I think it's a little bit harder to get to the older generations
yeah,
for me, because they're kind of set in their
yeah.
ways.
And again, I think that, and we kind of mentioned this in one of the episodes, like, I think that like our parents don't fully understand the transition of the things that go on today.
Yeah.
Social media is a
Hmm.
huge difference in the way that our kids raise our grandchildren. You know
Definitely.
what I mean? So there's things that they see that happens that was happening when we were kids, but we didn't know it because we
Hmm.
didn't have that information. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So now parents nowadays, you got to be more aware of what's
You
going
definitely
on.
have to be
You
aware.
know, so like our parents, they're kind of still stuck in that mindset of
Definitely.
raising kids like they raised us,
And even
and
that,
times are way too different
yeah,
for that.
that hard
Yeah.
parenting
But
style.
I still think that you can be, a hard parent and
Yes,
stuff.
definitely.
And
I
again,
will
but I
get
think
on
that
that.
there has to be a balance. And
Hmm.
and we'll talk about this a little bit in the next, section that we talk about. But
Hmm.
like again, and I don't want to get into no, serious in-depth conversations about, me and my father don't have the greatest relationship. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and everybody that knows me knows that. I don't want to get into no deep things about what he did and
Yeah.
things that I didn't like. But again, I still learned from him how to be a parent, even though it was from a standpoint of, you know, that's not right. I
Right.
don't want my kids to look at me and say the same things that I was saying about him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you take those experiences of when we were kids and you either continue that trend or you do the right thing and say, okay, I need to change up.
Yeah.
You know what I
And it
mean?
also connects to the dynamic of the family.
Yeah, for sure.
For my family, it was all girls. There was no males. So
Yeah.
even speaking about my father,
Mhm.
again, like you said, the type of person your father was,
Yeah.
you know, maybe kind of reflecting on his parenting style.
Hmm.
My father, he was more of a he wasn't a stern,
Yeah.
hard spoken person. So with males and him having to raise males, how would that have worked out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Even with us, he wasn't this hard. He
Yeah.
was more gentle, but I feel like, we did need a little bit more sternness
Right.
because
Yeah.
again, we're girls,
Yeah. Yeah, you
um,
definitely
we
got to
need that more
raise.
protective environment. Not saying he did not, but again, um, I'm just going leading it to the aspect of what if
Yeah.
he had boys,
Yeah.
and we get
And
into, that parenting style and emotionally how
right.
male connects
Yeah.
to other males versus that.
And I was the opposite because it was only boys,
Yeah.
me and my brother. So,
Mhm.
that stern
Yeah, you were
and
great at
again,
different household
There's a
lifestyle.
different, like my grandmother was the disciplinary.
Yeah.
And I tell this story, to a lot of people. My grandmother, she didn't whip us a lot,
Okay.
but she wasn't gonna play. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I don't even know what the hell I did. But my grandmother had a belt,
Mm-hmm.
and it was one of them old hard leather belts, and it was, how they used to keep them in the thing strapped up,
Yeah.
and then the end would be like it would get old, and then it would crack, and then it would be flat, but then the leather was split,
So it
so
was
it's almost like a
conditioned.
little
No,
whip.
I guess what I know exactly what kind of belt you're talking about because I've seen them.
So,
That's that
she
old
had,
granddad belt.
yeah. So she had that belt and she wasn't afraid to use it. Like, I don't remember what I did, but my grandmother was like,
And then we get to talk about, again, the disciplinary.
yeah, but like she was like, get your butt in that shower. And as soon as that dang on shower door closed, that bathroom door opened, she grabbed my arm. She had that belt.
I think every child's experienced that one traumatizing whooping or,
No, I got a lot more.
Yeah. So even our household.
We probably gonna get into it. I'm debating on if I'm gonna sell some of this stuff, but yeah,
I know this is very, it can get touchy. But again, it's all for learning because everybody has different parenting styles.
Yeah.
Like again, our house, we really didn't get whoopings. We got yelled at.
Yeah.
So it was different.
So you had to whoop me. Because you could put me on punishment and sit me in a corner. That didn't bother me. I could sit in a corner for hours. I entertain myself. I'd be sitting there as a kid like, okay, you had to whoop me. If you ain't whoop me, I
can see you just go sit in the corner.
Yeah, and
I'm
good.
Sit in the corner with your
Yeah. I cross my legs and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, dang, yeah, I could do that. You know what I mean?
Terrible.
I mean, but that's how it was. You know what I mean?
I raised the Capricorn too, so I know y'all style.
Little bit.
But then we get into kind of like how this emotionally affects our children.
Yeah.
And then how it emotionally affects us as our generation being disciplined by our parents.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of move into the next subject, which is gentle parenting versus
authoritative
parenting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all know which one I am.
Well, I'm kind of cross. And if my kids watch this, they would probably tell you that I'm a very gentle spirited person. But when you strike the flame in me, please watch out. I've never physically kind of, like strike the kids. They say I have. I don't remember. Maybe those one of them blackout moments. You know how we have out of your anger, you just black.
Right.
I have in my rage, like getting ready for school and you don't want to get ready. I have put my hand through a glass, like get your right now, boom, before I knew it, my arm was through the glass. So, if you don't want that unleash on you, then you see as a kid, the red flags, get up, do something.
Right.
So I try to give so many warnings before I have to really unleash.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying that's the right way.
I mean, again, I don't think there is a right or wrong way. I mean, I think that every parent, again, let's be honest. I became a parent. I don't even remember how old I was, but you got to remember, I went from single to being a father of 4 within a matter of months.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
but you have a tolerance that shows me.
Yeah, but again, it's still a learning process.
Yeah.
Because at that point, none of us were parents. So we don't
Right.
know how to do this. We listen, like our parents try and tell us how to be a parent, just like we try and tell our kids,
Yeah.
you know. But again, you're not always going to agree with how your parents raised you. You're
Right.
not always going to agree with their mindset and how they feel about things. So we're always going to raise our children differently than our parents raised us. It's just a matter of taking the things that really work, and
Hmm.
then can you take the things that you didn't think work and implement them into you being a parent.
Well, let me ask you this. When you get on emotional side of it, it doesn't always have to be a physical
Mm-mm.
discipline. Um, are you scared to hurt your child's feelings?
No.
Okay. And
Um
me either.
and one of the things that again,
But you don't wanna be verbally abusive.
yeah, no question.
Now,
I,
hurting feelings to me, and I'll let you speak, is again, not being able to tell the raw truth
yeah.
on some things, but still being sensitive to not, using words like, "You're stupid,"
Oh yeah, no
"You're
doubt.
naive,"
I,
"You're dumb."
I think that the term like discipline without
Mhm.
shame
Mhm.
is big because again, when I think back to my childhood, like my father didn't shame me,
Yeah.
but like the way he disciplined me
Mhm.
definitely wouldn't fly today.
Okay.
Like I could have
Yeah, more
very
of a
easily
physical.
called the police and been
Definitely.
like, this
Yeah.
is, and again,
And that's that
eh,
old
eh,
school
yeah,
style.
and again, I don't want to sit here and talk like my father was beating the hell out of me every day. I
But
wasn't,
again,
I wasn't the type of kid, like I got into trouble, but I wasn't in trouble every week.
but again,
So,
you
you
have
know,
to, even though it wasn't every day, or,
yeah,
you don't want to say it was an abusive situation, but one thing your father maybe could not understand in his
yeah,
aggressiveness to you, or showing that, and feeling like he was disciplining you in the right way, the emotional effects that, it caused you. Because again, if we're talking about it,
mm,
we're remembering it,
oh yeah, no doubt.
which has an emotional effect. Um, some negative, and again, like you said, some of his parents' styles were positive.
Yeah.
So again, we really do have to be
I don't,
sensitive.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I think
excuse
that
me.
I think like with my situation it was
Mhm.
different because my grandmother was really the parent.
Yeah.
Like we didn't call my grandmother was Ma.
Well,
No, we
same here.
call
My
grandma Ma.
grandmother
You know what I
played
mean?
a
But
great role in my life.
yeah, I mean no, but she raised
Yeah.
us. It
Yeah.
wasn't just a role like my grandmother raised us.
Which I
My dad,
commend grandmothers who grandchildren can call mom,
yeah,
because again, there is a role that you
yeah,
have to step into as parent.
yeah,
For a grandmother to step in the roles of a mother,
yeah.
that's a great
Oh
thing.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But again, like, she's the one, she was the figure that we look to for discipline. She's the one that we look to for
Hmm.
guidance. You know what I mean? My dad was more of like he was there, but it was more so like all that I got was the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he worked,
Hmm.
but again, if I did something and I got in trouble, then I'm gonna say I got a whooping. It was a little bit more than that, but
But,
again,
one
you
thing I
know,
think our parents also, when you have more than one child, realize that all children are different.
all right,
We're all different individual souls. So again, I look at all my children as different individuals, with different personalities. They all have different gifts. They're not the same.
no
So
doubt,
again, even though my morals are the same that I teach them, I know that each one of them are going to take it a different way. Live life
Oh, no question.
differently. Because one thing as parents, we also have to realize that, I mean, I don't like to say there's always one bad apple out of the bunch. And I'm not saying that about my
No.
children, but that just shows you that, again, they're all different.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know your kids.
You
I
do.
mean, you can't. I mean, and again, and you can't treat everybody the same because they're not
If
the
I know
same.
that Sierra's more emotionally
Yeah,
sensitive than Jaden,
yeah,
why am I gonna go
no
enraging and
question,
yelling, having a conversation with her
no doubt.
when I know she's gonna act and not be able to react or be able to process
Yeah,
that way in a manner where she's,
yeah,
not affected by that.
right.
So that's where, as parents, we have to reflect and be really emotionally in check,
Yeah,
because you don't really realize the lasting effects. And then what your children are going to take to their children.
yeah.
Because if they're raised in a household where they're physically disciplined, they're definitely going to discipline their children.
I don't know. I
Unless,
disagree with that because
well,
again, like when you look at my situation, like I
you're
was
right.
physically disciplined, but I never disciplined my kids like my father
Not
disciplined me.
like, but again, I feel like I'm gonna say use the belt. I feel like I know that you probably use the belt with your kids. So again, that you could have been disciplined, and that could affect you so much. You could have been the person that says, you know what, I'm never gonna raise
Oh,
a
no
belt at my
question.
kids. But I think you are emotionally in tune with yourself, where you properly knew how to use the belt with your
Yeah. Well, I
kids.
mean, I think I did it different.
Yeah.
Again, where is my grandmother? And again, you got to remember, like my grandmother is our main parental influence
Mm-hmm.
for me until I was about 13 when I moved back with my mom.
Yeah.
So, you know, my grandmother whooped us with a belt.
Mm-hmm.
My dad didn't whoop me with no belt.
Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Well,
Like my
see, yeah, okay.
dad
So
put
that kind of
hands
makes
on me.
okay, okay.
So
See.
again, like my thing when I discipline my kids,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I can't be like him. I gotta
Yes.
be kind of more like my grandmother. But for
Right.
me, the discipline without shame was okay, look, this is what's gonna happen. You go get this whooping, you go lay on this bed, and you not gonna move, and I'm gonna hit you. And if you move, you go get another lick. And again, this
I've been in that
sounds
setting.
bad compared to now, but it's not. I didn't have to whoop my kids like that.
Yeah.
Justin, we talk about this all the time. Justin got the most whoopings. It's not even close.
Poor Justin.
But like Deja, I probably whooped Deja one time in her lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Destiny,
Well, there were
I don't even know if I ever
girls. The girls
whooped
get the
Destiny.
easy.
I mean, there's definitely a difference in the way you raise
Definitely.
boys and girls.
It's
You know what I
definitely
mean?
is.
But
I would
again,
even my family, I would say the woman, I don't know, they played a major role, in our lives, even as raising the kids. So I remember, like, my aunt, when it was time to discipline us, she would take us each one individually in the room and say, when you go back outside that door,
yeah.
you better say that I whooped you. So each of us would go outside the door crying like we got a whooping,
Yeah.
but we really didn't get a whooping.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the soft discipline we got.
And
I
again,
kind of tried to, still scare the hell out of my
right.
kids in a way that they know what was coming.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to just take it there.
Yeah. And again, I think that there's balance.
Yeah.
That you can't be, one of the things that I did with my kids is I had this thing called real talk.
Yeah.
And I offered it to all the kids, but really the only ones that used it was the girls.
Well,
you
that's
know. But
great.
this was a situation where, and it was a way for me to try and get them to feel comfortable to come and talk to me about whatever. So
Yeah.
real talk is you come to me, you say you want to have a real talk session. You can tell me whatever you got to tell me. You can cuss me out, whatever you
Mhm.
want. And you're not going to get in trouble for it. You're not going to get disciplined about it. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to try and come to an agreement of how to handle it.
Yeah.
And after that, it was done and over with.
Right.
Now, conversations that we had in real talk was between me and my kids that was having that conversation, unless it was something that they mom
Right.
had to know.
But then that goes with also building trust,
No doubt.
building a
Yeah.
friendship, which we all need. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're mom, dad,
Yeah.
sister, brother.
Right.
It's about us as humans, building a relationship, and really just again having that care
Mhm.
enough. But again, as a parent, I can't,
Yeah.
I don't want to sound soft.
No, it ain't about being soft though. I mean,
But you have
again,
to have a sensitivity
no
to it.
question. And that's why I said there's got to be that balance. Like there's
Mhm.
been many a times that, again, you have to understand when the right time is to be that authoritative parent.
Yeah.
Like, look, you can't do this, period. This is unacceptable. This is the consequence.
And then knowing, like you said, knowing your children
Yeah.
each individually, and then also um, the parenting style of girls versus
Yeah.
boys, because there is a difference.
Huge difference.
There's a huge difference.
And honestly, and I was gonna bring this up a little bit later,
Mhm.
and it's to the detriment of my boys that's the case.
Yeah.
And we'll get into a little bit of that later, but
Mhm.
you definitely raise girls differently than you do boys.
Definitely.
And it's not fair. I'll admit it.
Yeah. But still getting into the lasting effects of, just how this emotional trauma can build up does lead us into like this generational trauma that is a factual thing that we all as individuals deal with on a daily basis. I call them, these are your demons you
Mhm.
deal with, because they are. And working on yourself as a person, you don't realize um the demons that you can unleash
Yeah.
on life because of things that you don't have in check as an individual. Hmm. So let's get into generational trauma. Um, I would just say, that gets into, should you raise your kids, again, like your parents
Yeah.
raised your kids.
I think that again, those generational traumas are more, like things again, like in my situation, it was more so like the things that my father did that I knew I wouldn't do with my kids.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna, I tell this story a lot. I grew up in Inglewood, LA, heavily gang
Rough.
infested.
Gang bang.
You know what I mean? And this was back in the day, where, it was deep. It wasn't in no
I know, I always say it.
but again, you know, there was a situation where my brother and I was walking down the street. We were on the opposite sides. We ain't get along when we was kids. Couldn't stand each other, honestly. But again, we was on opposite sides. This truck pulls up. A bunch of gang bangers hop out. They have guns. We had a group of people that was breakdancing on the corner. They go running. My brother goes into an apartment complex, hides. The only place I could go was into the alley. Now my dad says, stay out the alley. So I go through the alley. Guns. Only way I can go, I'm going through the alley. So my brother get home before me. telling them what's going on. I come in, my dad, first question, where you go? I ran to the alley. I ain't had nowhere else to go. Dad put me on punishment for 2 weeks. You know, so like those were the things of those generational traumas. Like, come on, let's be reasonable.
Right. Be reasonable.
You know what I mean? Don't
And
just try and be like, because you went in the alley and I told you not to go in the alley, you on punishment now. You know, those type of things.
right.
You know,
Because again, you at that young mindset
yeah,
going through that trauma in the
yeah,
streets,
yeah,
again, and coming home and not having anyone to be able to resonate,
yeah,
just what you dealt with on
yeah,
a level of just conversation first and understanding. And I don't want to bash any
yeah.
situation, but still,
I mean, even the common sense of like, what else you expect me to do?
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's not like I
yeah,
just went in there to just go down the alley.
yeah. Um,
I was running for my life
yeah,
in my eyes. You know what I'm
you're right.
saying?
Which the dark alley kind of leads me to a story, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but this is kind of related to, and this is not, even to shed any negative light or anything, but me as a mother makes me kind of think about how, what situations I put my kids in when
Yeah.
I don't want to say turn my back, but I would say when I parent hard.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm gonna direct this toward mothers and who have daughters,
Mm-hmm.
with children.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a situation, my children's father, he tried to discipline our child.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very protective person.
Yeah.
So again, I'm never gonna set my children in. We may put in dangerous situations, but again, I'm always gonna be protect them.
Yeah.
Again, my mother being a mother,
Mm-hmm.
trying to mother the situation, but then you get into the confines. Where do you overstep the two
Exactly.
parents
Yeah.
who's trying to parent?
Yeah.
And I really try to even myself with my son and his children, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you do the
No
same
question.
with our children who are in a couple situation. They have
Yeah.
children, so again, you try not to overstep those boundaries. So this particular situation got kind of
Mm-hmm.
heated. She was
Yeah.
dealing with her own life,
Yeah.
dealing with me and my
Yeah.
situation. And again,
On
now
top
in
of what
our
she was dealing with.
lives, right.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand that or fathom that, but I
Yeah.
can now,
Yeah.
because again, when my children are going through something, you know what, it's going to happen no matter what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And you have to learn how to cope with
Yeah.
both. Again, these are the things that I think about before I react,
Yeah.
because there are lasting
Yeah.
effects.
And I think that that's the key, especially in parenting. You know, you take your own experiences, and hopefully, we have the ability to say, okay, I need to do that better, that better, that better, instead of, you know what I mean, doing it how they did it.
Yeah.
Same thing with me and my father. You
Mhm.
know, not gonna get into a whole bunch of details about
Yeah.
it, but you know, like my father drank,
Mhm.
my father smoked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some of those things affected how he parented me and my brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to know that I didn't want to have that situation with my kids, and I didn't want to go through life promising them things that I wasn't going to follow up on.
Mhm.
You know, those are just some of those traumas that as a kid we go through, and then hopefully we don't take that into our parenting skills with our children.
And then don't forget that we have our own trauma.
Oh, no doubt.
So
No
don't
doubt.
have your kids pay for your karma.
Yeah.
That's how I put it, because
Yeah.
we're all really living in each other's karma. That's
Gotcha.
how I've come to visualize life.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to correct it at some point.
Yeah.
You got to learn to heal,
Yeah.
y- you know.
Yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah. But a lot of people struggle with that.
They do. They
You know, a
struggle
lot of
with that.
people, me being a sports guy and, going through coaching and stuff, a lot of these guys want to live their lives through their children.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that puts an added pressure on them that they don't
definitely.
need.
And that's a great subject to bring up, is just like, stop trying to live your life through your children.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have to stop myself doing that too.
Yeah.
If they know me, even with the social media, how much are we drilling in our heads? You can do
Oh,
social
no
media.
doubt.
Well, they might not have the mental
They
capacity to
just don't
do
want to
that.
do it.
Or right, they just don't want to
You know what I
do it.
mean?
We need to stop infiltrating so much of our likeness
Mhm.
onto our kids.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
have their own
Identity.
identity.
Yeah.
And at that young age where they are right,
Mhm.
you don't know, even get back to the verbal abuse.
Yeah.
You know, when you are insensitive and you feel like, again, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're stupid for not doing this,
Yeah.
or you're timid. That one word, diminish,
Oh, no
and
question.
again, this is what this is about. It's about breaking the generational curses,
Mhm.
cycles. The tongue
Yeah.
is a
Oh, no
powerful
doubt.
thing.
You just hope people have, and you said it earlier, the discernment to
Hmm.
be able to say, just because I was raised this way, don't mean I got to
Yeah,
raise my kids that way. There's a lot of parents that
yeah,
still the same shit that they went through
yeah,
are putting their kids through.
definitely. Because again, it's that, I don't know that child
Yeah.
trauma, kind of like they built their guard up
Hmm.
on, which we do too.
No doubt.
But again, you have to learn to heal
Yeah,
old wounds.
for sure.
You do.
For sure. Let's let's you brought a lot of emotional stuff into the conversation so far.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I was watching a podcast called In My Opinion.
Mhm.
That is Michelle Obama and her brother's
Yeah.
podcast. And they had Obama on there,
Mhm.
Barack.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they were talking about is how do you raise emotionally intelligent kids nowadays?
Emotional
Again,
okay.
into a point where, one of the things that Obama was talking about is how young boys today may not feel seen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because we always tell them to internalize all their emotions.
Yeah.
You don't show your emotions outward. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So they may not feel seen. So how do you raise emotionally intelligent kids in today's society?
Again, I think we kind of touched this on the last episode, as far as just communicating.
Yeah.
um Number one, you have to come unjudging. You have to
Yeah.
come and have the door open. We as parents face many different type of challenges, and you have to take them all on, with stride and, care,
Yeah, no doubt.
because how you react, especially when they're touchy subjects, can make or break that
Yeah.
person, um, especially in the adolescent
Hmm.
part of life.
Yeah.
So again, I'm really open with my kids, and I thank God that they're open with me.
Yeah.
They can come talk to me about anything. I might not agree with everything,
No question.
depending on the subject, but I'm going to give them a opinion as a friend.
Yeah.
And they might still take offense to some of the things I say. But I'm not gonna come hard like I really don't give a damn what you think, because
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, no question.
And when you even come at, I'm the parent, I really don't give a
Yeah.
damn what you think. Right there, you're already, you know, putting up those
Yeah.
barriers
They're gonna get
for them to
defensive.
come
Yeah.
back. You're cutting off the communication right there.
Yeah.
So again, then that leads to them seeking advice elsewhere out of your home.
Yeah.
It starts right here.
Yeah.
Then we go into like therapy.
Mhm.
Again, we all need someone else to talk to, but
Yeah.
more so when I feel like not all situations are led to therapy because there's that not the open door in the home, but
Yeah.
again, more so instead of the parents sitting down and having that wholehearted conversation with their child,
Yeah.
we'll sign up a therapy session and let the therapist deal with
Yeah.
it. So again, but I understand that some parents don't have healed wounds and they can't deal
Yeah.
with things. They're still trying to navigate life and get their shit together
Yeah, for
themselves.
sure.
So again, then we get into having kids. I mean, there's no perfect time,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But still, if you're not working on yourself constantly, especially when you have kids, you're just gonna, get infiltrate your crap onto
Yeah.
them. And if you don't know how, again, to communicate with them without judging
Mhm.
and holding, or making them feel shame for
Yeah.
one. Because half of the things that I went through in my life as an adolescent, I
Mhm.
didn't ask for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, that's why the innocence of a child is so precious,
Mhm.
because once they're introduced to shit, you know, they become into the known of it.
Yeah.
And that's where we have to safeguard them.
Mm.
Again, we have to be protective.
Right.
What you have in your home, our children see, they are our camera.
Mhm.
They see everything.
Yeah, no doubt.
You could, I could probably write a book about my parents' lifestyle, just like you can write a book about yours.
Yeah.
And my kids can write a book about mine.
Yeah.
So all the details of that book, think about what you're putting in it. Think about what you're putting in it,
Yeah.
because those are the memories they're gonna have of you.
So how do you transform that into them, you know, being able to decipher, the things that they've seen and handle it. When we talk about like emotional intelligence, again, especially in the black community,
Mhm.
boys are taught
Yeah.
you don't show emotions, you be strong, you don't cry,
Mhm.
you deal with things, you
I would say emotion has no gender.
oh, no doubt.
Emotion has no gender. So
Yeah,
again, you know, you have to deal with situations differently,
yeah,
but I would just say because again, emotions are genderless.
yeah. I think like for me, like when I think about how I address it with my kids, I'm a very honest person with
Mhm.
them. Even like when me and Sierra have had conversations, one of the first things I always told her is like, look, if you go come to me and ask me a question, you might not like my response, but I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest to you. And I think that when they get that honest opinion, that kind of helps them with the emotional side.
definitely.
You
And
know,
even like you said, for the parenting situation, um for both parents to have that open door policy, to me that's great. Again, you not being Sierra's natural father,
Yeah.
she trusts you enough to come talk to you
Oh
about
yeah. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
again,
I don't know about
well, I wouldn't
anything, but
say
I
anything.
mean, we've had some. She's come to me and asked my
Some
advice about
touchy
some things.
situation,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
where again, she's confident enough to trust you to give her, an honest,
yeah,
unjudgeful
yeah,
opinion and advice. So again, that's great.
yeah. But I think that honesty also, prepares
Mhm.
them for an outcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, as far as if I tell you, like the honest truth and how it might go,
Mhm.
you may be able to emotionally handle that a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think one of the other things too, like with like emotional intelligence, there's a lot of tools that I'm a sports guy.
Mhm.
I love coaching. I think that football is one of the best teachers of life. It
Yeah.
teaches you discipline. It teaches you character. It teaches you teamwork.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
teaches you so many things. But like one of the things that you learn in sports is how to handle emotion. When
Okay.
you have, and I'll bring up a situation that I went through when I was coaching. I was coaching 7 and 8 year olds. Our team was undefeated. We played against another undefeated team. We didn't play very good. We end up losing.
Mhm.
So now I got a team full of 7 and 8 year olds who are emotional and crying.
Yes.
And all I hear going around is the dads, stop crying. What you
Mhm.
crying for?
Mhm.
You know, and for me, I'm an emotional person.
Yeah.
So that, I don't have no problem sharing my emotions.
Mhm.
So I gathered a team around, and my thing is like, you know, I hear y'all telling y'all kids not to cry,
Yeah.
and I'm telling the kids like, y'all stop crying, I'm gonna cry for you. So I start crying in front of everybody
Mm.
because my thing is, these kids put passion into
Yeah,
this. They
definitely.
not crying because they lost necessarily. They
Right.
crying because they have a passion for the game and they want to win,
And that's
and
important
and
for
you
a
have to
community.
teach
Yeah.
them how to handle those emotions in those situations.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think like especially in the black community,
definitely.
y'all, I get it. A man is supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be able to handle situations, but we also need to know how to handle our emotions too.
Definitely, because that influence, especially us as a black community,
Yeah, no doubt.
because then we get into, just our children as, even dealing as being black.
Yeah,
Community is important
yeah, for sure.
because I'll use this example. Sierra works in childcare,
Yeah,
but just me hearing, and I'm not trying to, any confidential thing, nothing, break confidentiality,
yeah,
but
for sure.
just hearing certain settings that this is preschool,
Yeah,
she deals with, emotionally sensitive
yeah,
children, and there's always some type of backstory where you can't judge the actions of the child acting out.
yeah,
You really have to judge what is the, root of this.
sure.
So it takes, again, care, concern, really seeing the backstory of things, knowing what's going on at home, because
Yeah,
again, it starts at home. And
yeah,
that's
for
kind of
sure.
where we're getting at. Our kids are stereotyped every day
Yeah,
just for being young black men and women.
yeah.
So that's dealing with things on a whole nother level.
And I think that like when you talk about that, like the influence of it, you
Hmm.
know, um, like we always hear about. I always go back to Trump talking about how kids are going to school
Hmm.
as boys and coming back girls in the same day. Like, you know, it, and I know this is a touchy
What? Go
subject,
ahead, go
but like the like let's really think about that.
ahead.
Like when we, as parents, we set the foundation for our kids.
We do set the foundation.
We create the influence. Our kids should look at us when they have questions about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And our influence should outweigh any other thing that they're seeing or going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If we do our job right,
and it's about doing our job right,
then no matter what they experience in life, they're going to come back to that foundation. Their morals, the character, the decision making, all those things are based on us as parents and teaching our kids those foundational beliefs.
Yeah.
When people sit here and say that the world has influenced our kids now, and again, don't get me wrong. Yes, there is a level of influence out there. I played games where SOCOM was a game that I played in my earlier years. You know what I mean? And that was a military game where we shooting and killing people. You know, so to sit here and try and be like, that influence is making these kids go out and shoot people. No. Yo parenting skills is that influence that should be stopping that from happening.
And it's fun, even you bringing that up. My sons, I was buying BB guns from the age of 9, and they go to the gun range now. They always, had a liking for for guns. Me as a parent, I never, introduced guns as a violent thing, more of a sport. So again, it's about the foundation.
No question.
You have many white families who raise up their children from the age of 5 doing guns as sporting. So again, it's all about the foundation.
No question.
How you introduce these things to children.
And like Ty is more knowledgeable about it than most people that I know.
Because he can sit you down and really, as I'm just going to use a black, young black man, that, he will sit you down and educate you on the laws and the specifics of guns.
Because that just made me think of something, because again, Joe, again, our kids are at ages where they are adults and they can go out and make their own purchases and all that stuff. So, like, how do you feel as far as like, and we're going to touch on this towards the end, but like, our kids with guns and being able to conceal carry, like how much more of a burden does that put on us as parents?
Like I was saying, they're still young. But you have to let them grow, and hopefully they mature in a setting. I use Ty as an example. He's only 20. How old are you, Ty? You're only 23. So again, I'm not stupid. I'm the parent, and I know that you can slip back into that. Hey, they want to stereotype our young black men as YNs. Again, these stereotypical names. But again, him not portraying that image there, you're looking at a young black boy who has a gun, and the first thing you're going to be is intimidated. You're going to think it's a violent situation. Now, even on his social media, we just went to the gun range. I even tried to post some social media gun imagery and it wouldn't fly. But again, to me, that's a sporting thing. We had a great time.
But again, we have to understand the difference in the times. Is that something that we would have did as kids? Hell no.
No, I wouldn't.
We were more worried about people not knowing what we had.
Definitely not.
And with you saying that, let's talk about some of the stresses of parenting, because
it's stressful.
again,
it's stressful.
I remember like when the kids first started driving and going off on their own.
Yeah.
And that was a big concern. Like when they go out, are they coming home?
And even hearing some of the stories
No
kind of
doubt.
from the kids with when again those fresh moments when they're
No
just
doubt.
I've heard some stories like I
Well,
didn't know this was going on when you first got your car or you were here and there, and that goes to us.
I was gonna say, let's
Back
be
to the
honest.
beginning of the conversation,
We probably
where
got some stories.
when we first started driving, when we got that freedom, best believe you lived on the east side. You
Listen.
made that trip to the west side.
I'll do a real quick story. I had my car and I had a girlfriend in Southfield.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed in Mount Clemens. This was 696 first open.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
So you got on 696, did you?
I knew exactly how long it took me to get from my girlfriend's house home so I could hit curfew. But in order to do that, I had to be doing like 95.
See the things that we do.
So, hey, you know me, young boy with my girl. I ain't gonna say, but I'm leaving at the last minute.
That's right. You're gonna push,
and you're
gonna push the limit
down 696. So what happened?
And I'm sure your mom. Oh, what happened? Oh, you got pulled over.
I got pulled over.
You got pulled over.
Late curfew. Walk in the house. My mom and daddy in the kitchen like, you late. I got a ticket. Hand my mom's the ticket. And they start dying laughing.
And that's the type of, I would say, again, that could have been a different situation.
No doubt.
If you had I've had such times when, my mom has been waiting at the door. I mean, I'm just saying, when they're waiting at the door and you just know what you got coming to you when the door is open. So again, how many times did I deflect and probably was scared with coming home or even didn't come home and was, I would rather risk not coming home, getting that reprimanded what I had to face. That would have put me in more trouble. And again, this was a time where it wasn't no cell phone. Right. You know what I mean? And to think even worse, I was doing 95 in a Dodge 600 who said top speed was 90 mile per hour. but that speedometer was pegged out. You know what I'm saying? So like the consequences of that could have been real bad. Yeah. And even thinking back then, again, another situation coming from Southfield. I'm driving and it's a car driving on the wrong side of the expressway. I've seen some stuff. So let me be doing 95 and coming around a corner. That could have been deadly. No, you're right. But again, it still goes down to we know what we've done as children. No doubt. Ourselves. No doubt. I feel like that's one of the things that I put no doubt. When my children does something, I put myself in the shoes. Some decisions that I make as far as just how, things go in our lives. I put myself in the position of the situation that either have I been there or again, how we're going to deal with it as a family unit without judging. Again, it's factual that we are going to face, situation. It's factual that, we're not perfect as individuals. That stems to our children. That stems to us. So even with talking about this, kind of what advice would you give to, young parents now with raising their children versus how we would want them to raise their children versus how our parents raised us. I think a way that we honor our mothers and fathers are really just taking the good and bad and how you relate that down to your children, because again we learn from the good and bad mistakes, and we don't there's secrets in families, there's judgment in families, but it's really about the lessons that we take away from our ancestors, from our parents, and even our own lives. and
No doubt.
how we are preparing our kids for the future and
Yeah.
what's ahead and how to make life better and
Yeah.
how to really just, again, are we learning? Again, are
Yeah.
we learning? Because are things getting better?
Yeah.
Because again, it's all about the still mental health.
Yeah.
And that's, the most important thing today, the mental health.
Yeah, I think that today again, it's different than when our kids were young.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like advice, you know, your sister just had a baby.
I want to comment
Congratulations,
on something, but
Jennifer and Drew.
congratulations.
You know,
Yeah, another
but
nipple.
like the biggest advice, like even with my kids, and I gave the same
Mhm.
advice to Ty before Laura was born.
Yeah.
You know, before you have a kid,
Mhm.
your decisions are your decisions.
Yeah.
Once you have a child, your decisions are no longer yours.
Mhm.
Every decision you make that decision thinking about the outcome of your child.
Definitely.
It's no longer just you.
Definitely. It's
You have a child that needs you.
we've all been there though. We've all
Yeah.
been
Oh, no doubt.
again, uh, we've all been through the young stages of raising our children.
Yeah.
So what I would just have to say on that note would be, um, even for on the parent side,
Yeah.
me knowing what you're still going to live life through that young stage with
Oh,
children.
yeah.
We're there as that backup,
No question.
to let our children still live life, learn
Mhm.
lessons as being the protectors and guardians of our still that younger generation coming in,
Yeah.
still without passing judgment on our
Yeah.
children as parents, letting them be parents and
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah.
because part of it's all about still that learning. But we do pass harsh judgment on our kids
Yeah.
and still try to be that,
I
not pull back on the control.
yeah. I think that we tend to forget that like us raising kids, you know, like when our kids are raising kids,
Mhm.
the stresses of that, like we forget how stressful it was when we was their
Definitely.
age.
Definitely we do.
And part of relieving some of those stresses
Mhm.
is maybe them bringing them over to us as grandparents,
Yeah.
and them going out and still living their life.
And you have to, I mean, us as grandparents, yes, we
Yeah.
have to put, you can't be there all the time. You have
No
to
doubt. You're
not
not
be
supposed
taken
to.
advantage of.
Yeah.
That's a different subject. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as far as stopping or pulling back from being involved in your grandchild's life, just trying to control still what's
Yeah.
going on in your child's life, that's not part of living.
No
That's
doubt.
controlling. So again, I feel like still think of it in a mindset as to we're not here to control anything.
Yeah.
It's not in our hands to control,
No
it's in
doubt.
God's hands to control. And that's why I feel like as parents, we need to still make sure that God's, just have a spiritual foundation, because again, how many nights when your child is out and without me being able to have God there to talk to walk through, to promise me that they're going to come home. Again, that foundation there. And I tell my kids too, also just wait until your children gets of age. It's just life. You're going to go through with it. And that's where, I try to, dwell in their head that again, we're not the enemy. We are
No
not the
question.
enemy. Our parents are not the enemy, you know.
But
What
we also have to realize when to step back and
we
let
do.
them be parents.
We do.
Again, like I said earlier, we all took this journey of parenting and learned through it. None of us knew how to be a parent when we started being a parent. And we have to give our kids that grace to let them parent and do the things that they want to do, even though it goes against what we might feel.
Because we get grace as well. I
Oh,
mean,
no
don't you
doubt.
want that grace? I mean, we get
100%.
grace. So, but when you heal as a family,
Mm,
there's still that brighter side for it's a learning lesson, and
yeah,
it's a reciprocating thing. You start to heal generational trauma, you
yeah,
start to heal bloodlines, you start to blend families, you start to mend families,
yeah,
and make community, and then build better foundations where, we could put this behind us
yeah,
and, get along better as starting as a family. And then that pushes and flourishes out
yeah.
to us as a community.
No doubt. And I think that again, like when you talk about advice for new parents,
Mhm.
I think community is huge.
Definitely.
And that community don't always have to be your family.
It does
I
not.
think that one of the and you kind of experienced a little bit of it, but like one of the best communities for my
Mhm.
kids was growing up around youth football.
Okay. And those
My
things,
my
definitely.
kids, the boys and the girls, got
Mhm.
to see other fathers, other
Yeah.
mothers, how they handled their
Mhm.
kids, how they took them under their wings and treated them just like they was their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like that level of community is different. It's changed nowadays. It's not like it was
But you
back in the
have to
day.
participate, and that's
No
what I
doubt.
think when you say community. Number one, it's just not. I think us as parents, and even just as Black parents, we do involve our children in those type sports. How many parents involve their sons in football?
Mhm.
But it's a matter of, you know, you get your children active, but how much are you actively involved? How
Yeah.
much are you, in the community at the little league
Yeah, you
games?
can't
You
use them as a
know,
babysitter, which
Right, and that's what I'm
some of
saying,
y'all do.
it's just dropping off, no mothers are there in the stands,
Yeah.
rooting behind the kids, or the fathers there. They're looking to you to show up.
Yeah.
They're looking to you for you to be involved. So again, even for children in sports, you have to, if don't stop standing behind and rooting for your children.
Yeah.
Once they stop, performing, again, it goes stems behind, sports. Like I said, mothers in school with their children, still parent teacher conference, not
Yeah.
parent, I'm just saying, the parent teacher
Yeah.
groups and things like that,
Yeah.
still being actively
Yeah.
involved, where you're there seeing the interactions, how your children is responding to the socialism
Yeah.
as well,
No doubt.
because that's how we're going to learn, that's how we're going to grow, that's how we're going to be aware, and that's how we're going to keep us,
Yeah.
our people, involved in our children's life as a community, as a Black community.
Yeah.
Again, not just throwing them out to the wolves to
Yeah, no
everybody
doubt.
else.
But I think again too, like, even with, and again, I listen, when you talk about, like, for me, like youth sports, and I say football a lot
Hmm.
because to me, football teaches the most things as far as life lessons, than basketball and any other stuff.
Yeah.
But again, the community of all the sports, like for example, like there's kids that don't have male role models. It was great to have my kids see other men, and I bring up Chris a lot, Chris Kyles.
Hmm.
He's a director of a boys and girls club, but it's great for my kids to see a guy like that,
Hmm.
Black, young, male, successful in his career,
Right.
showing his father skills out there with his son, his
Hmm.
daughter, and giving those kids whose fathers aren't in their lives a male role model to look up to.
And
Those
mhm.
things, are huge because single mothers can still get that manly role model
Yeah.
in those situations.
And, we're wrapping this up a little bit. I want
Yeah.
to end on a good note, just
Yeah.
like you're saying that this past year, um, one of your parents
Yeah.
reached out to you from
Yeah.
a young individual that you coached, and it was to bring you in.
Yeah.
And even with that child growing up, graduating out of college, he still thought about the impact that you
Oh,
had
no doubt.
on his life
Yeah.
outside of his parents, just giving him the time of day, just showing that you
Yeah.
care, just being influential, and just to be able to have that honor,
Right.
just to know personally,
Yeah.
again, that just should be something, as us individuals,
Yeah.
um think, thinking ahead on as to the impact that we are having on our young children's
No
lives.
question.
So, it's all in positivity. And, this is why we brought this subject up
Yeah.
today, is because we're all in the same game. We're all playing the same game on different levels.
Yeah.
But we can all learn from each other
I-
and learn how to maneuver through it.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's kind of lost a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for all of you out there, I just kind of want you to just think about these things. Who could call on you? What positive advice do you have without judgment?
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this episode. We try to keep them down, but sometimes they get a little long because the conversation's just that good.
Look, I mean, we gonna have to get to a point where we just not worried about
We're not, if you want,
it. I mean,
if it sounds good to you guys, listen. We feel like we're giving hopefully great advice, some
yeah.
things for you to think about, some things for you to take away.
Yeah.
We leave the opportunity for you to give us constructive criticism.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want to say, put it out there. It's not going to hurt our feelings.
No doubt.
It's only going to make us get better.
And again, interaction is good.
Yeah.
These are just our opinions.
Mhm.
Not saying they right, not saying they wrong, but this is just how we live life.
That's
You know what I mean? So again, kind of share, what you guys have gone through,
Mhm.
some of your parenting
Yeah.
things that you've done with your kids, to help them get through life. Again,
If you have any problems that you want to go through, we can use this comment section as a support group
no
for
doubt,
our parents. If you again, we have DMs. If there's
no doubt.
anything that you need to talk about, put it in the comments, or
Yeah, for sure.
even, DM us, instead of always fighting off comments that are, opinionated or negative. We could give some honest
Internet tough guys.
feedback to someone who really needs outreach. And this
Yeah.
is what this is all about too. When we get on subjects like this is about outreach,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
we're here to help.
Support.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I made it through the episode without crying.
I tried to, but we cried before. We cried
did.
before the episode. It was,
Little bit.
again, going through we take the time out to go through our scripts. We really talk about the episodes beforehand, and
Yeah. But I do want to shout out my kids, because I don't think that this might be where I'd say
Uh-oh, he about to make me cry.
I don't think they understand how proud I am of them, or how much, love I have for them. I talk about it's funny because all of them are so different. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just, I don't know.
I think we just try to be good parents. And I think that because we're so passionate about being good parents, is we really, it really affects us what our kids think. And it may hurt us sometimes because we may let a lot of things get away, or we become so overly protective. But, I think in all in good respect, what you're trying to get out is that, we love our kids.
Yeah, but I look back,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about a little bit earlier. How you raise your girls different than
Yeah.
your boys. And it is times that I feel that maybe I haven't done enough for my boys because I always have been that guy that's like, they gonna figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's their job. That's what they do. You know, we as men, we figure shit out. You know what I'm saying? And I put so much emphasis on making sure my girls didn't go through pain. You know what I mean? And I may have neglected them a little bit, and sometimes I say I failed at
No.
teaching them how to be men.
No, there's never
But
failure.
you know, um, I just, and I know they know I love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there's definitely things that I could have done better to make them better men.
But guess what? There's always room for improvement.
No doubt. No doubt.
And when we realize these things, that's why I always reflect back to there's always room for us as parents to correct the mistakes that we feel that we've made. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be a little bit of work
Yeah.
because, again, don't forget that absence or that void that you feel that you created. I'm sure that's what we just talked about. Our children may feel that. So, again, as long as you still, you know, raise your children in that way to
Yeah.
forgive, to have that communication with them. The door is always open for coming in and saying, I'm sorry for neglecting this.
Yeah.
But I feel like even for us, talk about generational trauma. That may be some things that we're waiting for as well as individuals. It's just sometimes for your parents realizing that, okay, really wholeheartedly, I'm sorry, how can I make it better? And those simple words sometimes can drop off so much.
No doubt.
So much. But that is my advice as well. There's never, it's not never too late to say I'm sorry. There's never too late for correction for any
Yeah.
of us. Any of us. I feel like that's a part of what we're learning.
Oh, no doubt.
How to eventually get to a humbleness where we can say I'm sorry and acknowledge our faults and make things better.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
So I think we'll end this with a hug.
Hug.
Yeah.
No hug.
Give me a hug. No, this is what you guys. Great conversation, guys. Make sure that you tune in to YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Spotify. We're on Instagram. We are going to be loading videos by the day. We're still growing. This is a lot.
Episode 8.
Episode 8. And we'll be posting in the next episode. Stay tuned to the channel.
Definitely.
Thanks for watching.
All right. See y'all later.